No, they
Okay.
used to be. They used to be because when I played Parasite Eve, and you know what game innovative? That's an RPG, by the way. They weren't doing pre-rendered backgrounds and the typical fucking turn-based was fucking what do you call it? Xenogears. Jesus. They actually had like an openish kind of world and they had like exploration in there as well. And they had like off the bat, like when it started off, right? It started off with you were in mechs basically. You know what I'm saying? And then you succumb to the enemy, and then because it was basically a flashback, and then they several years before it happened or whatever, you wake up or whatever, and then they caught your attention that way. Like games back in the day didn't rely on other people telling you how the game is. They had to catch your attention off rip. That's why the God of War games were like that. That's why the beginning of the God of War games were like bombastic. You know what I mean? They were like crazy fucking stimulating when you turned on a fucking Batman game, not Batman game, God of War game. They had to catch your attention because the advertisements were not there. But now these publishers are depending on advertisers. You know what I mean? So they're like, I don't really have to do anything, such as Red Dead Redemption. You know what I mean? The advertisers and commercials are going to tell you that the game is good. You're just going to have to wait for 10 hours before it gets good. The same thing was with Horizon Forbidden West. It started off too fucking slow. That was the problem. You know what I mean? I feel like back in the day, they had a strong art design, easy to get into, and easy to kind of understand. Now everybody want to make things complicated. But you know why they make things complicated? At least in my opinion, and my theory, is that because the games haven't changed. That goes for all games across the board. And remember, I only made this space slash podcast because the Japanese get a pass all the time. That's my problem. It happens everywhere, but like everyone shits on Western games and the Japanese gets a pass. And let me just say this. Here's the thing. This is the curious thing. Who is this? Hold on. Oh shit, he fell out. Hold on, let me approve of him. All right, cool. Here's the problem with the fans of Japanese games, right? This is the problem with the fans of Japanese games. This is what kills me because they sit there and say, "Ah, the West don't make really good games. They don't make innovative games. It's always about cutscenes and stuff like that. It's always about cinematic experiences and acting." When you agree, country?
I've heard it. I've definitely heard it. I don't
Okay.
know if I agree with it.
No, I don't agree with it either. I'm talking about these people that love Japanese games so much that you remember I told you earlier, and it's not the Japanese. And to be honest with you, I don't mind the typical RPG and all the tropes. I don't mind that. I find it comforting. It's like eating an old food that you haven't eaten in a while. You know what I mean? I don't mind it at all. The problem here is it's too much of the same thing across the board, and they're not trying to change either, because you know why? They keep getting rewarded by the same people that keep buying the game with low ass standards. So when people claim that there's no innovation, right, and then Sony comes up with a game that hasn't been done before, i.e., Returnal, right? That bullet hell slash like what do you call that game again? What is Hades? What is that considered?
Oh yeah, that's a roguelike. Yeah.
Yeah,
Roguelike.
bullet hell slash roguelike that hasn't been done before in the 3D environment like this, right? In that particular way. And people that play Japanese games, the game is not cinematic. You know what I'm saying? In terms of it's not cinematic and cutscenes every 5 minutes. You walking through shit all the time, other than a house, but the house is a whole different gameplay. You know what I mean? Fast and fluid gameplay, like beautiful gameplay, strong ass art style. And what do these weebs say? Yeah, I can't do it. I mean, it's okay, but it has randomly generated environments and stuff like that. And then you know what I mean. You get like a basically double A Japanese studio, and they do the same thing, and you can see that the budget isn't even there, and the game is nowhere near as long. And they're like, "Oh my god, this is so good." Yo, did y'all play this? It's like I don't know what's wrong with them. That's the reason why. That's the reason of this space because there's a lot of hypocrisy. I'm sick of it.
I'm gonna be, I'm gonna be real with you. Like, I know everybody tries to throw this away when it doesn't suit them, but like I was
Who's
saying,
speaking? My bad. Who's speaking?
every once in a while,
Yo,
I look.
who's speaking? Who's speaking?
It's no country.
Okay, cool.
I
All
mean,
right, go on.
yeah, every once in a while I do go on a JRPG spree, and when you look at like the reviews for a lot of these games, they have a lot of low reviews. And let me show you how deep that is, and how what you're saying is true. With the way they talk about Octopath Traveler, you would think this game is like reaching like the 90s as far as like a Metacritic. That thing is an 82. And when I say that's high for that type of RPG, that is pretty damn high. A lot of those RPGs, these JRPGs, are like 72s, 65s, 75s. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And that shows what you're saying is kind of true, where it's just a lot of rehash. Like Tokyo RPG Factory from Square Enix, they got a few games, and the only one that is kind of a critically acclaimed is Octopath Traveler. That's what we're getting a lot of, you know. And the ones that are, and you know, what coincides is when they do innovate in a good way, that's the ones that are rated well. So you can tell amongst all of these games, you know, when you see tales of this, tales of that, you look at those reviews, you look at those, and you don't have to look at the score, but just listen to it. They aren't great games a lot of times. People are just playing it to say, I'm a Tales of fan. I'm a Ease fan. Even
Damn. Yo, slow down, man. Yo. Chill. You're gonna hurt somebody's feelings out there, man.
hey, I'm not only a client, I'm the president, man. You know what I'm saying? So I'm involved. I get it. I do like them, but I'm not gonna. I, I call myself a gamer, and then there are people. What I think happens is there are people who they get into a genre, and that's what they like. Like, you know, some people just play stuff like StarCraft,
Yes,
like
yes.
Korean gamers. There are people that are like that, and I don't know whether you call them gamers or not.
I mean,
Just because it's the nerdiest of nerdiest genres, are they considered gamers like that? You know what I mean?
I consider
When
you. I consider you a gamer if you play something religiously and you put your heart and soul into it. That should cover all bases. And really, gamers play games. They don't go online and just be talking, all
yeah,
day. And I would say this too, I'm tempted to say if you play a lot of different games, but that's not the prerequisite. You know what I'm saying? Because you can
absolutely.
play like there's people that play Fortnite that I don't care how many games you play in your life, right? You will never be at their level because that's all they do is that. That's all
Right.
they do is that, And same thing with 2K or any fucking game. A gamer is a person that plays a game. You know what I mean? And they love it. They love it. You could be a connoisseur of games. You know what I mean? Where you're a jack of all trades and master of none. That's cool. I'm probably, more inclined to be in that particular realm. That's another thing too. The reason why the Souls community picked up so crazy is because it says that they're a gamer because the game is allegedly so difficult. You know what I'm saying? It's so
Yeah.
difficult, and if I beat it, but I'm like, okay, when it comes to these JRPGs, or no, excuse me, when it comes
Nice.
to these Souls games, right? Here's the funny thing. What's going on, Black? Here's the funny thing when it comes to these games, right? You can go online and look at the builds and look at the meta, right? And the games because they haven't changed in the last 10 years because over 10 years really. um when they released Dark Souls, right, or Demon Souls, it's still using a lot of the code for that game. And of course people go be like, oh, you complain about reused animations, what game does it, blah 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 blah, right? We're not talking about that. We're talking about core mechanics, not animations. And on top of that, when it comes to Elden Ring, you literally took the same animations from another IP and put it in there. At least when Naughty Dog made The Last of Us, they didn't take anything from fucking Uncharted.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We're talking about a new IP still using the same animations from another fucking IP, right? And the same coding, the same roles, they tweak it a little bit. And these games are on PC, so they get data mined. So when you see a person fight Millennia, you know her active frames because that's how a lot of games work. That's how all games work. And you know there's active frames, and then there's what is it? Invincibility frames. And if you know those things, you can just exploit the hell out of the game should you practice, rolling, timing your rolls, and all this other stuff. And you can replicate. This is a lot of times when people think that they're so good at a game. You can replicate a scenario over and over again. I find out that a lot of the weebs that plays a lot of Japanese games, they like the fact that the game is kind of like repetitive in that sense, where you get these scenarios that you can replicate. The enemy is always going to spawn this way. They're always going to do this attack at this point in time when you're in this proximity, right? When you got a game that's a little bit random, such as Returnal, right? Then they don't like it. You know why? Because Returnal actually it actually tests your skill.
Yeah, Returnal is no joke. That is no joke.
You got to be good at that game. Not data mine the game and see where the invincibility frames are and where the active frames are. Because it's random. You can never be sure of how something's going to play out. You know what I'm saying? You can be relatively sure, but not sure. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be on your P's and Q's. But guess what? All these people that play the Souls games, they didn't like that game. Oh, I thought they were good, right? I thought they were good with those games. I thought they were masters of games, though, right? Because the Souls games are that damn hard. And it's so you get such a invigorating and euphoric feeling when you beat a boss, right? It's a community, right? You get this shit, right? But you can't play a Returnal game though. A game that actually requires skill. So are you really like that good that you say you are? Really? You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm calling out the people. Going to the Go on, man.
No, I ain't mad at you. I got in a little trouble because Elden Ring passed The Last of Us 2 for most awarded game, and I made the mistake of asking how, because I was like,
Ooh.
I'm not the biggest Souls fan, right? I like it. I like the combat and all that stuff like that. But I'm not the biggest Souls fan like everybody else is, because to me it has weaknesses and obvious weaknesses in my opinion. But I was like, how? I was like, it doesn't. There's so many categories that it doesn't fit in. But I was like, after asking how and kind of going over in my head, I was, they can still do it. I get it. But you're not winning anything for narrative. You're not winning anything for voice acting. You're not winning anything for innovation and accessibility.
Oh, well, hold on, country. Guess what? You don't have to have a story-driven game, right, with cutscenes that have a good narrative. You remember that?
Ooh. I guess, yeah. True.
No. Of course, I'm being facetious.
I know you are. I know you are, but from what Elden Ring to me doesn't have a great story, and it doesn't tell a great story. You can find it. But to me, it doesn't have. So, but I get it. I guess.
You know what had a good storyline? You know what had a good storyline that I still and it's not. It has. I swear to you, there's no record. It has nothing to do with a Sony exclusive. I promise you, it doesn't. But I'm gonna tell you this right now. Bloodborne had an amazing fucking story. Fucking story.
Yeah.
That shit made you question reality, not because they were dabbled into that shit though, but it had a lot of like really occultic meaning, and it mirrored hive mind mentality. You know what I mean? Of
right,
people,
right.
And how far you would go to be better or get the truth of what's happening. And they had a really straightforward storyline at the beginning. You were a sickly person, right?
Right.
And you're looking for a cure for your sickness. So you heard that this place, Yarman, right, had a cure. They had this blood that you can be injected with, and it will cure you. And that's all you really knew. So when you did this blood, they had a contract for you. They said, yeah, we'll give you this shit, but in order for you to do this, you have to, participate in our hunt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you start realizing, I signed this contract, and I really didn't know what the fuck I was getting into. So now you're head first into something that you didn't understand at first. Because you're kind of like, yo, what is going on here? I thought this was supposed to cure me, and it's not really curing me the way that I thought it was going to cure me. So I need to know more about this shit. You know what I mean? You find out that it was different schools and different, different people that were involved with this stuff, and people took it to the extreme, and your reality is built on people that had powerful fucking minds that were able to manifest different realities. And it's like the more you learn, even the mechanic for insight, the more you learn, right? Then the more you start seeing what the reality started to break down, because now you see the veil, you see what's being hidden. So when you
Yeah,
hit a
right.
certain insight, you start seeing the amygdala that was on the buildings. You know what I mean?
Right.
That was
Yeah, it was a little bit of a sore spot for me because I think The Last of Us Part Two should be in the top 5 games ever created. Um,
I'm going to tell you right now, you ain't going to like me for this. And if you're an
yeah,
adult, you will be successfully able to agree to disagree. I have a lot of issues with The Last of Us. Gameplay wise, I feel like it's okay. Like I feel like it's really good gameplay wise. I feel like they're great gameplay wise. And this is why people get mad at me because they think that I'm a pony and then they start listening to what I'm saying and I'm just really speaking kind of like what I'm seeing, my observable truth, you know. The Last of Us Part Two, to me, especially me being involved in a lot of different media and mediums, you know what I mean? I don't think that they tell a good story. There's a lot of holes in the fucking story. Point in case, Abby being able to punch these fucking mushrooms with spores flying all over the place and she doesn't get infected. You know what I mean? And people could say, well, it's just a video game, you know?
okay.
So stuff like that. I'm going to say
Yeah,
this. It doesn't matter what, like you can like a game and you can like a flawed game. Gravity Rush 2 is a flawed game. I love that game
yeah.
to death. To death. I played that game 7 times. I've beaten that game 7 fucking times. And it's not a short game either by any means. I love being in that world. The same thing with, huh?
No, you're right. Especially Gravity Rush 2. I spent some hours in that game. Serious hours.
I like 1 and 2. They're one of my favorite games. I love like stories that make you think. You know what I'm saying? I love
Yeah,
stories that are provocative and they're philosophical in nature. You know what I mean? That's why I liked Shadow of the Colossus. It was philosophical in nature. You know what I mean? How
yeah.
far would you go to really save a loved one? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Would you screw somebody the hell over? Which is kind of similar to The Last of Us. Would you screw somebody the hell over just for you? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is it worth saving everybody else anyway? That's another question. Like for Ellie and to have the cure, was it really worth giving her up for a fucked up world? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm gonna tell you right now, if I had a daughter to save this raggedy ass world, I'm sorry. This like in reality right now, this world is fucked up, and I don't want to save it. Not for selfish reasons. I don't feel a need to fucking save it. For what? And I'm being honest with you. It's not worth saving to me. That's how I look at a lot of things. But that's a lot of philosophical and pungent, points and sore spots and stuff like that. In terms of the awards, I knew they were going to do some shit. Elden Ring was destined to be game of the year and one of the highest games. They forced that shit on everybody. You can like a Souls game, but for a game that has that many flaws that's in it, and I'm not talking about technical flaws, if you have to go back in the game and start patching things in because it's missing, then you shouldn't get game of the year. We're not talking about fixing bugs. We're talking about like gameplay mechanics. And I say this example the whole time because there's no log or quest, right? At the detriment, right, of exploration.
Right.
Um, this one lady, she told me to find a grape. I don't know why I got to find a grape because they don't tell you, which is poor story writing. That's number one, right? I found a grape 20 minutes. I'm sorry, maybe about like half an hour because I was like, getting sidetracked, right? And I forgot about the NPC, right? And then I walk up to her, I was like, oh, a new NPC. I literally forgot about her because I was all over the place. And she was like, did you find my grape? I was like, grape? Oh yeah, that was like an hour ago. Like you should never be that lost and you forget. And imagine that's in the beginning of the game. Imagine further into it. There's a problem, the real problem. If your game is like that, and you got to patch in map quest, I mean not map quest, but quest via the map and shit like that, right? There's a problem with that. There's a whole problem with that. I have a problem with that. A game is not. I will say this about The Last of Us. What's a more complete game? The Last of Us, for sure. They did what they set out to do, whether you like it or don't like it, but they succeeded in what they set out to do. Whereas in
Yeah,
Elden Ring, they're still trying to figure it out because they haven't done an open world game before. And it's like, what is the purpose of it? The open world? What's the purpose? You know what I'm saying? Like I
yeah.
said before, the mechanics are basically the Souls games, but in the open world. But what's the purpose other than, oh, now the environments are bigger, and I have to. It takes longer for me to get there. You don't have any climbing mechanics, you know what I mean, that make it more interesting to go there, other than the horse. And then there's a lot of like, what do you call it? Bottomless pits in the game that's an open world game. To me, that's unacceptable. They didn't even bother creating a swim animation for this game. Even if your character couldn't swim, they didn't even bother creating a swim animation. To me,
Uh,
for a game that has that big of a budget, absolutely not. You should not be
yeah.
Game of the Year status.
From the beginning, because listen. When I say I see a lot of stuff from the grassroots up. I do. I bought the original Demon Souls. No crowd behind it, no fan base behind it, pushing it. I bought Demon Souls. Me and my friend were talking about it. We thought it was cool. We bought it. Both bought it. And when I saw it come up, I started to realize that it wasn't just about the game being good. It's people wanted to shame you into liking this game, and I think it affected the media too.
Facts. It did because the media, especially with Cuphead, you remember that shit, right? Where
Yeah,
homie didn't even know how to climb the fucking gate, but you were a reviewer, excuse me, or climb
right.
the wall. So it was like they had a point to prove. You know what I'm saying? But it was too late because guess what? About everything that you needed to know about the Souls games and its mechanics was already online and in forums. So you ain't doing nothing by going to a forum and figuring it out. And also, too, by the way, guess what? People say that it doesn't hold my hand, but you go onto a website to get your hand held anyway.
Right,
So
yeah.
now the developer that made this game didn't even have to invest time or R&D to make a tutorial, a real tutorial, because you allowed them to be lazy. You allowed them to not make a tutorial or even think about it. You allowed them to. You claim that that's part of the game. You can figure it out. Bitch, I need to know the mechanics of the game and then other intricacies. Then I could worry about. I don't even know what the fuck a lot of the things. How would I know? Because you can't rely on the blood stains anymore because now it's all troll related or mostly troll related. You know what I mean? So now the developer gets away with not even spending R&D teaching you how to play their own game. You know what I mean? But they get away with that shit, yo. Because again, the fandom of Japanese games. You know what I mean? Playing things for clout.
Yeah.
That's what you get. That's what you got.
Yeah, I kind of was wondering if that's what this space was about. I've noticed it for a while. Like it's just people are trying to crawl into a certain subculture. That's what I call like the nerdum, the geek culture. I call it a subculture, or unpopular culture sometimes, which is now popular. People want to pretend like they've always been these nerds or whatever. Like, listen, some of these people, they were the popular kid in school. They were the quarterback. They were the, you know what I mean?
Right.
But now it's blown up. Now that nerd culture is so popular, everybody wants to think they were in on day one. You didn't. It's just I don't want to feel like that, but it just feel like you didn't go through what a lot of people went through for you to be,
Just
watching
you taking it. Now you taking it. Now I'm a black guy, right?
yeah,
To have to have the big lips, you know what I'm saying? To have the darker skin, to have the coarse hair, you know what I'm saying, or what they consider nappy hair and shit like that. That was not fucking in when I was young. You had to be a mulatto, a mixture between the two. You had to have fucking what they would consider pretty hair, right? You had to be all those things, right? So when I see people coming in, injecting their lips, when I got shamed for this shit, That's what it feels like to me with this gaming culture. It feels like you didn't be like, for instance, the Demon Souls shit, right? All these people that like Souls games, you weren't there when there was no tutorial or no forum for you to go and test things out. You weren't there for those particular struggles. I respect the people that were there day one, and guess what? Those people are they're not even obnoxious at all
Yeah.
because they understand, they already get it. But it's like now you want to assume or assimilate the fucking culture of the Souls. You know what I mean? You just got started in it. Your shit was Dark Souls, what? Dark Souls 3. Then you played Dark Souls 1. Then you played Dark Souls 2. Then you played Bloodborne and then Sekiro. And then you played fucking Demon Souls. Now you want to sit there and say that you're a part of the fucking action? No, the fuck you're not. No, you're not.
It's funny to see like somebody like myself who bought Demon Souls. I believe it was day one, and played that game and pretty much didn't finish it because it takes a lot to drive me through a game. It has to be a really good game. And then somebody that started playing Souls games and Dark Souls 2. And if I say, well, it's a cool game or whatever like that, I didn't finish it. They're like, oh, get good. I'm like, listen, I'm the person that likes Final Fantasy X better than Final Fantasy VII. Why? Just because of voice acting. So, you know what I mean? It's not that Final Fantasy VII didn't have a good story, but you need to keep me captivated. And me reading through Final Fantasy VII didn't keep me captivated. I played all the way through Final Fantasy X. Keep this between us. I cried at the end. You know what I'm saying? Because those characters become lovable when you can hear them. You know what I'm saying? To me. You know what I mean? You can hear the little tension between Yuna and I forgot his name now. But the main character. You know what I'm saying? So, there's certain things like God of War. The story always brings me through with the gameplay, whatever. Back in the day, listen, to be real with you, most GTA players I know, they didn't play it just to end it. They played it to fuck around. They got in the car, they blew shit up, they jumped off the roof, they learned
hours to see me and my friend would be cooped up in a fucking room smelling like fucking onions and shit because nobody was taking a fucking shower, right? Passing this controller back and this back when I was like fucking 13, 14, right? Back and forth, pass the controller back and forth to see who can avoid the cops the longest. And then as we're watching this shit, we're analyzing what he did wrong, you know what I mean, what the other person did wrong,
Yeah.
and see how long you can do it. And then have a favorite car. Mine was the Infernus. My boys was what do you call it? The Banshee. You know what I mean? And we were like, when we get older, I'm going to try to go for a Lamborghini because that's what it was based off of. And then I think the Banshee is like a Ferrari, if I'm not mistaken. But like, we tested things out, which was the faster car. You had the Stinger. I 100%, I would have platinum that game if it had a platinum back then. And I still played it. I played it and played it and played it some more. I didn't beat the game just to complete it. I mean, I didn't play the game to complete it. I played it because I liked it, and that's how I've always been with these games. That's what a true fucking gamer is. You just buying and beating games and putting it on to the next. Fuck that shit. I mean, I'm not gonna shame you. You know what I mean? If that's what you do, that's what you do. But those are the people that are the fucking loudest. You know what I mean?
I had games that I played for years, and what I mean by that is I played it when I bought it for a month. You know what I'm saying? Over and over and over. Put it down, picked it back up, put it down, picked it back up, and may have ended years later. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I didn't beat it in a week. I didn't beat it in a month. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, oh, I remember this game. I want to go back and play it, and I will go back and play it. The only games that really just I had to beat in a month, I had to beat in a week, were the greatest games that ever touched the retail shelf. Metal Gear Solid 1, Metal Gear Solid 3, The Last of Us. You know what I'm saying? God of War. Those games
You want to know why? You want to know why I wasn't that intrigued with the Last of Us Part 2 when they were like, oh, you get the dogs and the dogs can sniff you and stuff like that, right? And you had stealth. And you want to know why that didn't really tickle my fancy? Because Metal Gear Solid 3 already did that.
With the dogs that can sniff you?
Hell yeah, they can sniff you.
Yeah, I think you were right. Yeah, I think you were
Dogs
right.
can
Yeah.
sniff you. You can throw like pieces of meat to trick them into eating that shit. You know what I'm saying? Or you can kill them,
But
whatever.
that's what people don't.
That's why I'm like, when I people.
It's not fair with Metal Gear. Metal Gear innovated a lot of stuff that people are taking credit for. It's not fair. People don't know. People never give Metal Gear the credit it deserves. Metal Gear was doing. You can go to a boss fight before the game is actually scripted to go to a boss fight. And now they're giving that compliment to games like Breath of the Wild. Oh, you can see Ganon, so you can go to Ganon right now if you really wanted to.
Here's the thing. You want to know something, right? Everybody played. Supposedly, I'm gonna wrap this up soon. By the way, too. I try not to go crazy on this shit, but you can see. Here's the thing: where everybody was going crazy when Thor killed Kratos, right, and brought his ass back to life. I wasn't impressed. You want to know why I wasn't impressed?
Hold on.
You put that motherfucking memory card back in that system on that Metal Gear. That's why you wasn't impressed.
Which one?
No.
Oh, no. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about my man from the lake. My man that you was walking to the Lake of Souls with.
No, you talk about the sorrow, but no, I'm not even talking about Metal Gear Solid 3. I'm talking about Metal Gear Solid 2. I'm talking about when you died and you got brought back to life, and the game made you think that you died. You played God of War Ragnarok, right?
Yeah, I played it. Yeah,
Remember how he hit you, and he was like, "Oh no," and he takes his Mjolnir and revives you.
Yeah.
Look, I was like, "Oh, that's cool." I remember that from another game that I played on PS2, Metal Gear Solid 2, when you were playing with Snake, and they act like it was a game over screen, and they said "fish and meld."
Oh yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
See, no credit.
Yeah.
The AI was glitching up in the game, right? Like via the storyline, and then the game would act like you lost, and you were like, "How the fuck did I lose?" And you would read the fucking exit, and you would read the error, like you'd be able to select whether you want to exit, right, or you continue, right, and it said it was supposed to be mission failed, right, but it was letting you know that it was fake, so it would say fish and mailed.
Right.
And then the screen would expand.
Credit, bro. Even think about it. What games? Maybe there were games. What games were really doing weapon attachments, infrared, night vision before Metal Gear?
Maybe I don't know, because Siphon Filter was there too, which was kind of like a clone.
No. Siphon Filter was 98, 99 though.
They didn't do that in Metal Gear Solid 1?
No, and Metal Gear Solid. Let me look it up now, because I know Siphon Filter pretty much came out after Metal Gear because it was inspired by Metal Gear.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, a lot of these games that got attachments and night vision goggles and all that stuff, these military games, they owe a lot of that to Metal Gear.
Well, there was SOCOM. Right? There was SOCOM that was like, what is it, 2001 or 2?
Even SOCOM was after Metal Gear.
Yeah, SOCOM was a whole different beast anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
SOCOM was the Call of Duty back then, where the level design was impeccable, and you had basically SOCOM was Fortnite back in the day. Because if you died, that's it.
Right.
You had to be you had to play as a team. So if you died, that was it. I remember playing that. Oh my god. See, that's what I mean by when people say that Western developers ain't it. It's it's weird to me, man. When they have all this pop shit to pop though, but these gamers are not really gamers and shit like that, because you can't call out your favorite people. You know what I mean? You can't call out the issues. Just like there was a lot of people saying that Horizon Forbidden West didn't have an art style. You know what I mean? Or it was worse than Elden Ring. And I'm like, why? Because of a golden tree?
Yeah.
Is that that's all you need, is a fucking tree in the middle of the thing? A spiritual tree, and that's it? That's all you need?
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. This thing is
it's deep, man. The weeb culture is deep, because guess what? That's what they remember. They remember the anime back in the day. They remember the games that they used to play and how they felt. Nostalgia is one hell of a fucking drug, man. One hell of a fucking drug. You would never, ever, ever, never, right, get that feeling back from games. Ever. You're going from zero to experiencing these games, and now we're going to experiencing one experience that was weaker than the other. So you'll never get that high from video games. And what they're trying to do is get that specific high when they played their first RPG or they played their first Souls game, and you can't break that. There's nothing you can do. You gotta have an open mind when it comes to this shit, man. You do, and that's the problem. People can get mad at me all day and say that I don't like Japanese games or whatever the fuck they be saying. Well, kiss my ass. It is what it is. I hate that shit, man, because these people like really just this elitist mentality and it's spreading to the media because they feel like they have to appease them so they won't get like fucking what do you call it? Getting death threats for giving their specific game a fucking for criticizing it essentially.
Right, exactly, yeah.
I know that Horizon Forbidden West has specific issues. You want to know what they say? The Melee has issues, right, in Horizon. And I'm gonna wrap this up and do like a final word for everybody. But like I know that Horizon Forbidden West has issues with the Melee, right? They said I can't get into the Melee. That's what they claim, right? Okay.
Right.
All right. Cool. But then you say that The Witcher has really deep melee, like has really deep mechanics. Like if you can play The Witcher and like that melee, shut the fuck up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I played The Witcher for the first time. I thought they cleaned up that game, yo. That game is an old ass game for what 2014. I thought I can imagine how that game was released back in the day, and they gave it like Game of the Year. That game is glitchy as hell.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I like the storyline, but what the gameplay is the same. Like you have the Witcher sense, you know. And one of the things that they do is interacting with the NPCs. They kill that shit. That's where Western developers really need to be. They kill it. I love it. Right? They got it. But then like the gameplay, you got this weird ass shit. You start off and they play like the fucking Scandinavian music, which you know what I mean. It's already done before, so they know a template. When you want to do like Norse mythology, which is where The Witcher is kind of based in, they got the whole na 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 na. You got fucking Geralt. How are you gonna make me wait? So you got this shit. You got all this other fucking shit. Every song, they don't even remix the fucking battle music. You know what I mean? And he's so stiff as fuck, man. And it's very janky, and they gonna have the audacity to say that the melee is fucked up in Horizon, and you had no problems playing The Witcher, and you can play that shit 17 times, but for Horizon you have an issue. And then you say that Horizon doesn't have any innovation, right? What game do you know of that has machines, right? That in order for you to actually play it, you have to look at the RPG elements of the machines. This one's with ice or whatever the case is, and you can take that bitch apart with armor and shit like that. Like you can see the armor parts come off and everything, and the game storyline is based off of nothing that has ever existed. The storyline hasn't been done before. You know what I mean? You have an AI. I mean, basically humans screwed themselves over essentially. It's not, they destroyed the world based off of the war games that they were playing. You know what I'm saying? And then they had to make an AI to rebuild the fucking world. And you know what I mean? Like, how do you create a modern day ancient city? Because when you're playing Horizon, it's basically like us looking at Egyptian culture with the pyramids. Yeah. They don't know what happened because the information was lost. Right? Just like we don't know what happened with the pyramids because the information was lost. So when they see weird buildings, they're like, "Oh shit! How would that game sound like? OST wise, what would match it? You know what I'm saying?" And people undermine that. Guerrilla Games had to create a sound for this game from scratch. They didn't have like source material from Scandinavian environments or Norse mythology. Or, you know what I mean, medieval times, just like the Souls games and the Witcher games. They didn't have that shit. What would Horizon sound like? Because it's never been done before. But people are like, oh, it was done so masterfully. They're like, oh, but of course. Why wouldn't it sound like that? It's natural environments. You got the ethereal like lady like humming or whatever the case is. with some technical backgrounds and shit like that. Why wouldn't it sound like that? But somebody had to create that shit. How would these machines sound? You know what I'm saying? All this shit that they had to do, and people are gonna say that there's no art style. What the fuck looks like a watcher? You know what I'm saying? What is that supposed to be? You know what I mean? Like a one-eyed, bipedal. Where that the closest thing is Metal Gear. Them geckos from Metal Gear Solid 4. And even them, they weren't like. It's just crazy to me. It's so annoying when I hear this the people that love Japanese culture and how they're just like, I don't like anything else, and there's nothing you can do to change my mind, and you're so biased because you always have Japanese people on the tongue and shit like that. Nigga, because I like Japanese fucking games and I want them to be better. That's why. What's wrong with that? I don't want to take a shitty ass game. Just like I don't watch any anime. I watch the best of the fucking best anime. You gotta prove to me. Like people were telling me Code Geass was one of the best animes ever. I didn't like it like that. It was okay.
Yeah, they just recommended that to me, matter of fact.
It was alright. You know what I mean? And it ain't no Trigun.
Right, bro.
You know what I mean? It ain't what Titanfall. I'm not Titanfall. What is it? What is that game called again? Attack on Titan. It ain't no Attack on Titan. Just because it's older, I don't like it because it's older. Look. You got the big old. You got a lot of like, what is it? Elfen Lied. I didn't like that anime either. It was okay. You know what I mean? All the little games. You got fruits baskets and shit like that. Like I know my shit. I just don't be talking about it. Just because I work the fuck out and I got a body fat of 7 and 6 and I look like an Avenger, don't mean I don't play my fucking games.
Right. No, I hear you, man.
I'm just saying, that shit's super fucking annoying when you try to explain to these people that just want to be closed-minded that, you don't, like, you're not good, your games are not good. You know what I'm saying? Western games are not good. The only good games are Japanese games. It just need a little bit of cleaning up. No, because you can take their old games and put it on a PS1. I'm not saying that everything needs to be innovative, but I'm saying the Japanese market need to do better.